Welcome back to the YouTube channel, everyone. We are here at Brown's Gym in Worcester, and I thought I'd do this vlog because I've had quite a few people ask me what sort of approach I'm taking in my rehabilitation. You know, what I'm doing in terms of nutrition, what exercises I'm doing, and you know, what sort of supplementation am I using. So I can answer all these questions, hopefully, as best as I can in this vlog. As you can see, I'm up and about, I'm walking. I've been pretty active the last few weeks. The last video took me a little bit longer to get out there than I thought because, quite honestly, I couldn't find a comfortable position to work in. So we're shooting this today, and then I'll do another vlog next week in the Maldives as well. So give you a bit of an insight onto, you know, how I'm going to cope with traveling and stuff like that. So yeah, let's go in and I'll show you what we're doing. The cat is currently fucking staring me out because I'm eating my bagel. Over there. Look at my bagel. So guys, in terms of physio and exercise selection, a lot of this is going to be very individual. So this is why I always say to people, you know, make sure you go and see a physio, make sure you've got proper sound advice, especially, you know, in my situation post-surgery. You don't want to be, you know, playing with fire. So if we think in terms of, and I'm trying to think of like some of the questions that have been put my way, if we think in terms of muscle memory and how we're going to essentially sort of bounce back from that recovery, how it affects our movement patterns and all that sort of stuff, we then can take a very individualized, tailored approach to our rehab plan. This is all based specifically on people's pain triggers, how it's affected their mobility over, you know, that period of time that they've been injured. In terms of muscle memory, what we're actually talking about is essentially, in the neuroscience world, engrams, and they are sort of cognitive information or imprints, if you like, that enable us to move in certain ways without necessarily thinking about it. So a good example of that would be that we have, you know, evolved and progressed to be able to walk without thinking. We just do it. When we have something that comes and disrupts those patterns, or, you know, the cognitive information, then we can end up adopting sort of poor movement patterns. Jake's just smiled at me there because I was trying to think of the word and I just did. So yeah, we can adopt poor movement patterns as a result of trying to sort of protect the injured area. Another good example would be, you know, people that move a certain way because of their occupation or their profession, whether it be, you know, the military, what have you. You find that then people, even when they're not at work, then adopt that moving pattern in everyday life. So what we're trying to prevent through this rehabilitation process is, you know, picking up any movement patterns that are going to hurt us even further. So the main or the initial part of the recovery is going to be mostly, you know, making sure that we've got that core stability there, core strength. In terms of when I say stability, I mean being able to, you know, pick things up or move about, as, you know, keeping the spine as protected as possible. Okay, so we are trying to create proximal strength to enable us to have distal mobility or strength. In other words, you know, when we deadlift or squat, we're bracing, we're creating a core stiffness to enable us to move that weight in the safest manner possible. But if I was to relax the core and pick something up from the floor in a flexed position, especially for me with a posterior lateral protrusion, that is going to exacerbate that. So we need to be cautious in the way that we move and in the way that we lift things. So we're going to start off with a simple bodyweight squat. Again, if we're looking at movement patterns, this is something that we use on a daily basis. You know, if we're getting up from the toilet or we're sitting on the sofa or what have you, we need to be able to get up, you know, in a way that we're not necessarily thinking about it. So we do all the thinking now. We're essentially, you know, re-imprinting that information, that cognitive information, so that in the long-term process, you know, we can do those movements without having to think about it as much, and we're nice and protected. So essentially we're letting the body know that it's okay to move, back into those positions when initially from, post-surgery. You've got to keep the spine very neutral, very stiff, lying down, flat. If we're turning like this rather than twisting our spine or flexing at the spine. So yeah, we're just trying to pick up those movements again so that we're letting our body know that it's okay to move in those positions. So through the squatting movement, what we're looking to do is brace the core. Okay, so take a big breath in through the nose. That's going to help you stabilize those muscles around the spine that protect the spine. We're going to keep a neutral spine the whole way through. If you saw, I'm basically holding on, or just not holding on, but using the frame as a guide to keep my spine neutral. Bringing my feet to about a shoulder width apart, and then my toes slightly pointed outwards. And then we're coming down as low as you physically can, obviously, so that you're not increasing the pain. Flexing at the hips and then pushing through the heels and the toes to come back up to the top when we extend the hips. So what I would probably suggest as well, what I usually would do, is go barefoot, and that enables you to naturally spread your feet and get more of a sort of a tripod in your foot, rather than just focusing on pushing through the heels, which is quite common. I just, obviously being filmed, so I don't want to be there struggling getting my Converse on and off every 5 minutes. So, but yeah, that's what I would usually do. So I also like to include some sort of hip hinge as well. We need to let the spine know it's okay to move. Also, it's a modified way of sort of picking things up. If a lot of your pain trigger is from slouching and flexing at the spine with compression, then you need to be very conscious about, as I said, activating the core, keeping the spine neutral. And if you're picking something up, it's either going to be squatting down and keeping the spine neutral, or using that flexion at the hips and essentially Romanian deadlifting something up. So keeping an RDL in there. Again, if you do alternate the legs, you're going to challenge that one side of the body, challenge the core a little bit more than you would if you're in a fixed position also. So a one-legged RDL, pretty good exercise to be implementing. You see in that last exercise, we were doing a lat pull down, a straight arm pull down. Don't be afraid to do movements like this, because we are mainly focusing on, we're not overloading the lat as such, but we're mainly focusing on, keeping the core engaged, and then just over time slowly building that weight back up, just to get those muscles moving again. But as I said, all of these exercises are going to be free weight that require some sort of core stability. So a neutral spine, so we don't want to be flexing and extending under load. We want to keep that nice and neutral as we contract. So don't be afraid to do exercises like chest presses and stuff like that, because you can still work those if you're sensible about keeping a nice neutral spine. We want to try and avoid the machines where we're typically, if you think of a shoulder press, we are in a compressed position. On the floor, you're nice and safe because the spine is neutral. Okay, obviously still keeping the core engaged, but you can progressively overload that over a period of time. If you're sensible about what you're doing, you can still do those exercises. Literally crashed into the wall. So next exercise, this one is probably the most crucial of all the exercises, is a clean and jerk. And we're going to do a 1 rep max as well. So this is very good for core strength and a hospital bed. No, you take it. That's the sort of main body of the whole body workout done. As I said, don't be afraid to still do exercises that you would usually do in your plan. As you saw me do the lat pull down, tricep push downs, bicep curls. The reason being is that yes, we're still going to engage the core, by not being in a fixed position, i.e. sat on a bench or what have you. We just obviously got to be mindful about the load that we're using and progressing that bucket nice and slowly. So the last part is where I would do a sort of a series of core stabilizing or strengthening exercises, you know, aside from what I'm doing with my other exercises. So these are mainly consisting of knee planks, side planks, bird dogs, all those usual things that are going to help stiffen and stabilize that core that we need to be very mindful of when we are moving, picking things up and all that sort of stuff. So first one, knee plank. And these are pretty fucking hard to start off with, but they get easier the more that you do them and your body will adapt. So what I'm doing is I'm staying on my knees right as opposed to a normal plank. I'm keeping my elbows in line with my eyes, and I'm keeping the core and the hips up and engaged at all times. I'm starting off with about 20 seconds and then progressing that up as I get stronger. So, as I said, we do a combination of things like side planks, bird dogs, hip thrusts, things like that, and bridges, because they help with not only sort of, you know, contraction, engaging the glutes and stuff like that, but also engaging the core. You have to think about keeping a solid core through those movements. So I tag those on at the end. I'm also doing those pretty much on a daily basis in their own kind of little session really each day in the mornings. So now we'll go to Dover's Hill. We're going to go for a bit of a walk. We get some fresh air and get some steps in. That's something I've been trying to do more often now because I find that the more mobile I keep and the more I'm walking around, the more it alleviates my pain. Not the same for everybody, but certainly helps for me. So see you later. So guys, we're at Dover's Hill in Broadway, the Cotswolds. So this is one of my favourite areas to come for a walk and clear my mind and get some fresh air, and a brilliant place to come and get some extra steps in. I'm a bit of a country boy really. I was born and raised in the countryside, so I really feel at home when I'm in this sort of environment, and it certainly helps my mental health, helps me reflect. But anyway, we are here to have a chat about the nutrition side. So I know a lot of you have asked me, you know, what I'm doing in terms of my nutrition. And I think the easiest answer is to say that, and I put this on an Instagram post recently, that I think that a maintenance level of calories is probably the most sensible place to be at. A deficit would be too extreme because you're, you know, essentially depriving yourself of the, you know, all those essential nutrients and the calories that you need to, you know, effectively recover from whether it be an injury, a surgery, or, you know, even an illness. We need sufficient calories there. So high protein diet, high fluids. You know, in terms of, like, I know a lot of the people that have asked me are, you know, mainly kind of into the gym and bodybuilding and stuff like that. So in that respect, you're sort of still eating enough calories to, you know, help maintain muscle tissue, but you're not eating an excess, you're not eating a surplus, you know, where typically you're not going to get any more of a benefit in terms of muscle retention, and you're typically going to take on more unwanted fat, and then, you know, post recovery, you're going to have to work even harder to then get that back off. So it's unnecessary, really. Don't get me wrong, I had a few off-plan meals and some nice food over Christmas. But once Christmas was out of the way and my initial sort of first week of recovery, I got through that, then I was on to sort of maintenance calories and stuck to a plan that I devised for myself. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend a surplus or a deficit, the two extremes. I would say staying in maintenance, and that's going to be a pretty good place to be. Obviously your activity has significantly reduced. So therefore, we have to take into account when we are calculating our total daily energy expenditure, that maintenance level of calories has shifted. So yeah, we need to be mindful of that when we're figuring out our energy balance. Obviously, the more active and more mobile that you get, you can adjust those calories accordingly. I'm going away on holiday next week, so it was a fine line for me. I needed to eat enough calories so that I was able to recover. But I did want to lose a little bit of body fat and improve my body composition a little bit. So I put myself in a small deficit, a couple of hundred calories or so, and then just reduced that progressively over the last few weeks, and increased my output. So I didn't have to go crazy in terms of reducing my food. It was simply enough that I was, getting on my feet, getting on the treadmill every day, to sort of tip that energy balance. So I was able to, create a more positive energy balance at higher calories, basically. So yeah, that's done its job of, enable myself to, burn a bit more fat or lose a bit more fat, and get myself into, a position that I'm comfortable with to go on holiday. I'm not too fussed about that because obviously I'm more concerned about recovering properly from this surgery and getting out of it, what I intended. So I don't want to jeopardize that at all. I'm certainly going to enjoy myself on holiday. But, in terms of doing, what I'm going to do when I come back, I think, again, I will just go back to, a maintenance for a bit and then slowly increase and reverse my calories back up as my output increases. So yeah, to sum up, keep your protein high. Be mindful in terms of what you're eating fat-wise, but at the same time, don't deprive yourself of fats in fear of putting on fat, because obviously all of those, vitamins and essential nutrients are going to be, potentially fat soluble, A, D, E, and K, for example, which are, pretty important in terms of recovery. We need to still be able to utilize those. And if you're depriving yourself of fats, then you're not going to be able to do that. So don't be scared to keep your fats up. Obviously carbohydrates are going to be reduced because you're not as active. What did I say about fluids? Keep the fluids up. And yeah, pretty much it. Try not to overcomplicate things. So I hope that's answered your questions. Obviously, I can elaborate more on things if you guys want to drop me a DM or interested in coaching, and we can talk about that further.
So, supplements. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of some of the supplements that I take that are more specific to recovery and rehabilitation, rather than an elaborate, in-depth explanation to every single supplement I take. So the first one I'm going to mention is vitamin C. This is extremely important when it comes to collagen synthesis, or increasing collagen production, which we need to heal and recover. So if you think of post-surgery or injury, where you've got an open wound that needs to heal and scar over, and collagen synthesis is responsible for part of that process. So vitamin C, very important. I actually take 2,000 milligrams a day. So one 1,000 milligram tablet in the morning, one at night. I get these from Insight Supplements. Most of my supplements I get from Insight. But the additional stuff like vitamins and minerals and whatnot, I get from Revital. So moving on to the next part of the supplement stack. These are going to be sort of staples that most of you will probably implement in your supplement regime anyway, but still worth a mention. So mainly responsible for energy metabolism and hormone homeostasis, hormones being an important part of the recovery. We'll come on to that. So they're going to be zinc, vitamin B6 or a B complex, magnesium, and zinc. Yeah. So the magnesium I use is Nutrient from Revital. This is a complex or a blend, biglycinate, citrate, taurate, and malate. So biglycinate, or the glycinate part, is mainly for stress, anxiety, recovery. So you might want to implement that in your PM sort of protocol. Citrate and malate more targeted towards sort of digestive health, as there's a lot kinder on the GI tract. So magnesium, really good one in terms of recovery. Then I've got a BioCare P5P complex. Again, hormone homeostasis, energy metabolism. It's a B6 complex, so it's got magnesium and zinc additional, but this is essentially a concentrated form of B6. The zinc I use is a Solgar. Again, citrate because it's kinder on the digestive system, and that's 30 milligrams because we've got, some zinc in other supplements as well. And then moving on, we have got, again, most of these supplements are going to be targeted towards collagen synthesis and also anti-inflammatory and antioxidant benefits. So when we say antioxidant, we are saying that they're going to reduce oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is damage to our cells, i.e. the cell membranes, DNA, protein, caused by free radicals, which are derived from metabolic processes, or the emissions, if you like, from us metabolizing energy. So when we exercise and go to the gym, if you have a hard session and you increase oxidative stress, antioxidants will help reduce that. So you can get a lot of antioxidants in your diet. So you might find these in things like blueberries, garlic, green tea, dark chocolate, many other foods that are antioxidant rich. But I also like to add some supplements as well. And two which are well studied are things like liposomal glutathione. Again, this is from Revital, which is going to help with recovery and the regeneration of your tissue, and also works as an antioxidant as well, so anti-inflammatory. Also, another one to mention would be ubiquinol, or a coenzyme Q10. Again, very powerful antioxidant, specifically when it comes to the heart as well. So if we think of our vital organs, specifically the kidney, liver, heart, a lot of antioxidants will help with reducing oxidative stress to those tissues. So it could help with, liver health, kidney health, reducing the risk of cardiovascular health, and all those sorts of things as well. So those are sort of staples for me. I do also use, again, if we're thinking of anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, I also use Join In from JP. Again, get this from Insight. So some of the ingredients to mention here that I look out for are boswellia, which is, I hope I said that right, which is an anti-inflammatory, really powerful anti-inflammatory. We've got glucosamine sulfate. We've got hyaluronic acid. Again, this is going to stimulate collagen synthesis. Also some tenderfold collagen. So all the usual suspects in there. So again, anti-inflammatory and then pro-collagen synthesis. So you can see a bit of a pattern emerging here. Another part of the recovery process is going to be rest and recovery. So again, this is one of the most important parts of recovery. Yes, we can look at the exercises that we're doing and everything else, and the food that we're eating, but if we're not getting enough rest, we are not going to recover. So for me, and again, I'm not saying that everybody should take these, but they certainly help me, and they are the icing on the cake. Everything else should be in place. So, getting hot baths, relaxation, meditation, whatever you need to do to switch off. But these really help me. I mean, I use St. John's wort, which is more of anxiety, stress management, but I'm obviously trying to reduce that stress as I recover. This is in place of an SSRI. It's not the same thing, but it does take the edge off when it comes to anxiety. That was actually recommended to me by my psychotherapist. So, and you don't get any of the sort of horrible after effects that you would get with SSRIs, where you typically feel groggy and tired after using them. I also use a valerian supplement. I usually get like a tincture from this, like a liquid form, and that just helps induce sleep, basically. It's not as good for keeping you asleep, although some people do report sort of feeling a bit groggy in the morning, similar to that of melatonin. But it will certainly help, or it helps me anyway, induce sleep and relax before going to bed. So that's in the form of calms. One a night. I usually get a tincture, but that was sort of a backup plan. I also get Love Hemp, so CBD. Again, not going to work for everyone, and I'm not saying everyone needs to use it when they're recovering from an injury or an operation or what have you, but this certainly helps for me with anxiety and sort of relaxation and all those sorts of things. This is quite a strong one. It's 1,200. It's by Love Hemp. So it's a 4% CBD. It does help me, so I would recommend. Another thing for me is I like to take a drink before I go to bed. Now, this might be like a strong Support Max, Neuro, PM, maybe. So the Muscle Sport Coma is the one I've just purchased off Insight. I wanted to give this a try. So it's got melatonin, L-theanine, what else has it got? L-arginine, things that are going to help, again, induce sleep. And I think the melatonin more so keeping you asleep. So looks pretty good. Give it a try. As I said, I usually use the PM and another sleep one. I can't even think who. Conti Sports. So Conti Sports, I usually use their sleep drink, which is pretty good. So I'm also going to come on to another thing. If we think of anti-inflammatory benefits as well, is an omega fish oil. Now, a lot of people have asked me about this, and I would say if you can invest in a good omega or a cod liver oil or a krill oil, then it's worth it if you get something decent. I think if you're trying to shop on a budget and you get cheap omegas, they can cause more damage than good, potentially more inflammation as well. But I use Bear Biology from Revital. Now, it's got a good amount of EPA and DHA, 1:1 ratio. I would look for something that is a non-ethyl ester form, so something that's not going to go rancid. And I would typically advise that you get these sources from anchovies, sardines, mackerel, all those sorts of fish. That's going to give you a better quality omega. So Bear Biology, I'd definitely recommend that one. And another thing to mention, obviously you should be getting your protein from your food, but a protein supplement of sorts is going to help, obviously, your recovery and collagen synthesis. As I said, try and get this from your food. I do like to have a protein shake. That is just personal preference. I use the Perform carrot cake, absolute favorite. And also something like an essential amino acids as well is going to potentially mitigate muscle breakdown. So whilst recovering, it might be something that you want to implement, might not. It's not, it doesn't have to be a staple is what I'm saying. Some of these things I just get to give that extra percentage. Another thing, as I said, in terms of recovery, and I will mention it, I'm not advocating the use, by the way, of any synthetic hormones whatsoever, but keeping your hormones in a more optimal place is going to certainly help your recovery. If you've got testosterone that is crashed to the ground, you're going to find it hard to recover. I do get my testosterone prescribed by a GP. I have that on a prescription. So I keep that in a higher to normal range. I do monitor my own blood work, and that is not just my hormones, but all my other biomarkers as well, inflammatory markers, vitamins, hormones, all other hormones as well. So that is something I would say, if you're looking to optimize your recovery, make sure that you get your blood work done, because it will highlight any deficiencies you might have as well in any vitamins. So usually the common ones are vitamin D and vitamin B. So get those checked, and you could be improving your potential to recover as well. So another thing I take is creatine monohydrate and a pump product still. As I've been more active and getting back into training, that is just something that I want to implement to get my routine back. So that's a personal preference, really. So other things to consider, which I will mention because a few people have asked, are things like peptides, BP157, TB500, all those sorts of things. I would say be careful if you're buying these things online, because you could never really fully guarantee that it is what it says it is, or the dose you're expecting. So be cautious with that. Growth hormone secretagogues, anything that's going to promote your own endogenous production or increase of your endogenous production of growth hormone, is certainly going to help with your recovery. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not advocating the use of growth hormone specifically, but it is going to help. There are things that you can take in place of growth hormone. And again, you can use over-the-counter supplements like GABA and stuff like that to help promote your own endogenous production of growth hormone. But as I said, I am not advocating the use of those, but they certainly would help. I also do use L-carnitine. Again, not going to get too in-depth into this, but it's going to help with energy metabolism. So utilizing those fatty acids for energy, and all the other sort of benefits in terms of recovery, libido, all those sorts of things. So I do keep that in there as well, and sort of trying to be honest about what I use. So I would say that's about it. Those are, for me, the sort of more important ones when it comes to recovery. As I said, I don't want to spend too long in this and give, really elaborate explanations on each and every supplement that I take. We can sort of do that moving forward, but those are the main ones that I've put in my stack to recover. So, as I said, make sure that your diet's good, your rehab is good, rest and recovery is optimal as it can be, and the supplements are kind of the icing on the cake, really, but they do help. So we are going to now enjoy some food. I'm going to give Flavours a bit of a mention from Evesham. They are an Italian-run business. They do the best pizza, I would say, that I've ever had, and ice cream that I've ever had. So if you're in the Evesham area, go and check them out because they are absolutely spectacular. So guys, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope that's answered some of your questions. I will be doing a vlog in the Maldives next week, so look out for that one. And as always, thank you for your support. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next.